and welcome to Life After Lupus. My name is Andrea Lendy, and sharing a little bit of a story with you called Sunday Night Story Time from my book, Life After Lupus, What's Your Autoimmune Name? So many of us have been diagnosed with autoimmune issues, but I can assure you there is life after that, and a healthy one at that. I'm very fortunate to have found the path that has led me to great health, and I'm so very thankful for that as well. I was allergic to so many of the medicines the doctors wanted to give me, and so that just wasn't my path. It wasn't my story. My story is natural healing, but with much of God's blessing upon that, may I assure you of that for sure. So on our next chapter, it's my time that I spent with the gastroenterologist, and it's probably a little bit of that too much information category. It was a tough visit that I had that I wrote about in this short chapter. I was going in for an endoscopy, and it was unusual. I was so allergic to everything. They couldn't numb the back of my throat. They couldn't put me under even a little bit. I did it just strictly. I just went in, got on the table, stuffed the thing down my throat, and there we were. So this was my experience of that. And to come to find out, my stomach issues really had a huge part in how I was able to breathe or not breathe, as the case may be. So that's our little chapter this week, this Sunday night, as we cozy up together. Thank you for being here. Gastroenterologist. The intestinal problems I suffered were almost insurmountable, and they truly were. I finally discovered that the breathing problems I had weren't a result of lung issues, but of intestinal distress. I could not move my abdomen in and out to get a full breath. So I felt like I was always out of breath. I was continually yawning to try and get that breath. I'm going to move my camera just a little bit, you guys. I'm not sure exactly all of what you can see, but it's not all as tidy as it seems sometimes. So that being what it is. So many medications were prescribed, but to no avail. I was allergic to most of them, as I have already told you. I started seeing a gastroenterologist, and he completed every biopsy that could be done. You know, there's so many tests that can be done to look at the stomach, to look all the way down into the stomach, whatever might be up in terms of what's happening in our stomach lining and even our throat and that kind of thing. And they can see everything, and they can take little chunks out and pieces out, and they can test those pieces. And so often there isn't anything they can see, and nothing comes back conclusive, even though we know that our stomachs are in an extreme amount of distress. And it's so disconcerting to not know, after going through these sort of laborious tests, if you will, to just still not have a diagnosis that that can handle or that could take care of what we're experiencing. So we actually completed an endoscopy without any medications during the procedure because I was allergic to all the meds. The first of many tests was that endoscopy. Generally, this procedure requires a medication to deaden the gag reflex. However, we didn't use that. So the gag reflex was in full effect. I can just feel it even now. Makes me want to throw up. Another medication that is typically administered is one that almost puts you to sleep, and we didn't use that either. The gastroenterologist was a doctor from Germany. He was really cool. He had a German accent, and he'd say, "Something is coming. We don't know what, but something is coming." He's an interesting man. So he was a doctor from Germany who had done the procedure in the past without any medications, unheard of here in our country, and he informed the nurse that we would be doing the same for my procedure. She had never done this before. And after the test was completed, she said that she never wanted to do this procedure again without medication. The date and time was set for the procedure, and I drove myself to the medical facility, ready to deal with whatever was in front of me for the next hour or so. I was greeted and asked to fill out forms, change into a gown, and wait until the doctor was available and ready. When it was my turn for the procedure, I was asked to lay on a very short, cold metal table. He explained how everything was going to go, and he would be talking me through the procedure step by step as it was happening. It's always comforting to have the doctor telling you what's going on and what's going to happen next, and it just sort of prepares you because we aren't prepared for something like this. We don't know what's going to happen and how we're going to feel and how we're going to act or react, as the case may be. He was going to insert a hose down my throat and into my stomach. He said it would feel like I couldn't breathe, but that I would be able to breathe through my nose. So I was to remain as calm as possible in order for him to do all the things he needed to do in order to complete the test. The doctor was ready to begin it. He picked up a device from a nearby table, which looked like the modern-day handheld controller that kids use to play video games. It had all sorts of gadgets on it with his finger, and he would make the tools and what he was using do what he wanted him to do. He told me he was going to complete all the necessary manipulations through the device once the tube was inserted down my throat. The first time he attempted to insert the large circular tube down my throat, my body reacted fairly violently, and he almost dropped the handheld device. He told me that I had to remain calm because the device that I almost caused him to drop cost tens of thousands of dollars, and we didn't want him to drop or break it. He put the tube down my throat once again, and he talked me through the procedure step by step. Every once in a while, the gag reflex would take over, and I would have to calm it down in order for him to proceed. He completed the procedure and removed the tube from my throat. The nurse was rather distressed about how the procedure went. However, I felt quite accomplished at having gone through it without any of the standard medications. And I was happy to leave the hospital without having to stay in recovery like the rest of the people. They were put so under that they had to just recover like you would in a recovery room, and then someone had to take them home. And I was ready to go home, which I didn't. I went to work. I drove myself to work and worked my 8 hours. So I left 15 minutes later and drove myself to work. It's extremely difficult to identify intestinal issues, and after the heroic measures we took to complete the tests I underwent, there was still no diagnosis. So the search continued. A few of my friends recommended a naturopathic physician because they had taken a more natural approach to their health and with favorable results. I went to see a naturopath, and the long path of healing began. That started my path to natural healing, was seeing that first naturopath. I didn't see him for long, about 90 days, but it was enough for me to know that that was the way that I was going to heal. And it wasn't overnight. It was one cell at a time, 1 minute at a time. And those minutes turned into hours, turned into days, turned into years. And 3 years later, I had no symptoms left. So healing is possible, and we all find our path. And for some, it is the Western medicine, and the medicine is phenomenal that is available for so many people. For me, it wasn't an option, and I'm kind of thankful. It was a rough road. I had to find that road on my own, but as I did, it led me to the path that I really needed to be on, wanted to be on, and would have desired to be on. I didn't want to be sick for the rest of my life. At 30 years old, I couldn't imagine being sick for the rest of my life. So, doing what I did, the extraordinary measures that we'll be looking at over the next weeks and months in this book, those extraordinary measures that I undertook ended up in a complete and total healing for me, and I'm very thankful for that. So it's important what we put into our bodies. It's important what we eat. They're either nourishing or they're damaging. Can't be both. Typically it's one or the other. So we have choices to make every single day and almost every hour of the day, because we have opportunities to eat. We're all at home. Most of us are at home. A lot of us are at home, much more now than we were before this pandemic. And being at home, we have the refrigerator readily available to us. So we're able to open the fridge and open the cupboards and kind of snack our way through the day. So it's super important, has been super important for me to live a healthy life in terms of eating that does nourish me and keep me healthy. It's also important for me not to have additional toxins come in contact with my body through putting it on, whether it's makeup or toothpaste, or breathing it in terms of the kind of cleaning things that I use in my home and absorption through my skin. So I have cleaned out my house of chemicals in every way possible, and I'm careful about what I eat, but it's worth it. And I've done it in about the most simple way a person could possibly do it. I don't make my own products or anything like that. I shop online at a great store that does all of that for me. They have great scientists, and the best of science and nature is what I say. So whatever path you are led down for your healing or well-being, that is the good one. And if you haven't yet found that, keep searching. You will find it. And I hope that something I say, something I've written, can be of help to you. You can always connect with me. Reach out. Would love to talk with you. My number, my email is andrea@andrealendy.com. And would love to start a discourse with you and see if there's anything that I've done that can help you. So don't feel afraid to reach out. Would love to chat with you. Until next time, breathe in and think of healing, well-being, both physically, emotionally, and lastly, spiritually. Probably first of all, spiritual. When that's taken care of, the rest seems to fall in place. So wishing you a great week this week. No matter what's going on in our big world out there, we only have control over this. We only have control over us. So do your best to control what you can control. Put on the blinders and not take in all the chaos. Literally do not take in all the chaos that's out there that only causes unrest, dis-ease, which can lead us down the path of that disease. So be well, think great thoughts, be thankful. Gratefulness goes a long way to bringing peace into our souls, which goes a long way to health and healing as well. Be well.